This lesson is going to focus on something called close reading. And I want you to start by thinking about the variety of things you read during a day. Now, let's think about something like a text message. You get a text message, you can usually glance at your phone, read it quickly, understood it, you can move on. There's other things, I don't know, maybe it's a section of your biology homework, maybe it's an email you got at work, maybe it's like an official document you have. Some of these things require a little bit more work. I'll call these things rich texts. And rich is like a positive way of saying, the vocabulary is a little bit uncommon. It's really like the descriptions and imagery are more descriptive. The language structures of the sentences are a little bit more complicated. There's maybe some figurative language in there. It's like maybe it's about something important, like some big theme. These things makes texts more rich, a little bit more dense, a little bit more complex. So I was thinking about like what's something I've came across lately, which I would call a rich text. And I thought about my credit card policy. To be honest, I haven't gone too deep in here. I don't know if you have. So I started reading through here and I focused on this part here. So how is my interest calculated on my credit card if I don't pay it? It says, my interest charge is then calculated by multiplying the average daily balance by the daily interest rate by the number of days in a statement period. If different interest rates apply to categories of transactions such as purchases, cash advances, balance transfers, we calculate the interest charge based on the average daily balance for each rate. Your account statement shows the interest charges for each category, etc., etc. To be honest, I just read it through like that. I still don't know how my interest rate is calculated on my credit card. I would have to sit down with this for a little bit. I'd probably have to get out a pad and paper and make a couple notes, figure out some things as far as like maybe what's daily interest rate versus like average daily balance. Like some of these vocabulary I don't know. I'd have to break this down. This is a rich text, and to read through this text, I'm trying to figure out how do I approach it? What strategy can I use to understand this rich, dense text? This is called close reading. It's when you're reading with a purpose. You're looking for important details. You're looking for a real understanding of how something is put together, what its overall meaning is. It's taking the time and coming up with a plan to figure out, okay, I need to figure out how I'm being charged interest. I'm going to sit down, figure this out, get out my pad and paper, and read this a little bit more closely. So it's just reading with a purpose. It's reading with a plan, a strategy, a purpose going into it. In an earlier lesson about poetry, just our first introduction about reading poetry, we said this is kind of the technique side. You have the attitude. You're approaching it open-mindedly, with some empathy, being curious, but you also need a little bit of technique. And we said that's reading carefully, considering key features, and working to create meaning. So this lesson about close reading is really going to focus on kind of the technique side of understanding poetry. And we're going to break it down into 4 steps. We're going to work through this through literal, structural, figurative, and the thematic layers of these poems. And we're going to not try to bite off more than we can chew and not try to understand it all at once. We're going to come up with this close reading strategy to understand these poems through this 4 steps of close reading.